Welcome back to Let's Talk Careers. My name is Ms.V, and I'm so excited to bring another guest. If you're listening in to the podcast on Apple and Spotify, I am here talking with Adam Docrat. We're going to be talking about his career, how he found his way through that career, and also some of his key insights for young people thinking about a career that might lead to something similar to what Adam's done. Welcome, Adam. I'm so excited to have you here with me today.
Thank you, Maria. It's great to be here.
I mean, your career is very interesting, and all of the things that you do alongside your career, I think, make you as a professional and an individual really, really interesting to a point that is going to be exciting for a young person, because in my experience with working with young people, when they're planning for that first career milestone, they think they have to do one thing, and that's get the degree right. But what I've seen is that you've done so many different things, and I know that it's shaped the professional that you are today. So I'm excited to jump into that. But before we do, I want to take you back to when you were a teenager. How did you know that going to university, and I know that you studied a Bachelor of Science, how did you know that that was the right degree for you? Because this idea of getting it right seems to be the thing that teenagers are always worried about. So how did you know that that was the right choice for you, and who helped you make that choice?
Yeah, so thanks, Maria. So I think, going back to being a teen, and I think if I go back even further, I predominantly always knew I wanted to be into IT and computers. I think I was growing up in that sort of Xennial generation where we were the hybrid between the introduction of computers into mainstream and, also growing out without technology. So obviously when I was growing up in the 80s, we didn't have any sort of real technology. But then, coming into the 90s, that's when sort of technology sort of became the mainstream. And I remember I got my first computer back in like 1993. And I remember being super excited about getting this computer. And, whilst, some teens would use it for their work, or they would use it to play games, for me, it was all about digging into the bones of that system, both on the software side and the hardware side. I like to take things apart. I like to see how it worked. I like to break it. I mean, I've broken it God knows how many times, and then been able to put it back together almost. And in some cases, taking advice from other people as well to help me put it back together. And I think doing that and being able to sort of really get stuck into the nitty gritty of the code and seeing how everything worked and how everything operated, really led me to think that this was a good career for me, because at the end of the day, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed what I do. I knew that from, different people who were around me. So uncles, cousins, and sort of elders in the family, who were already working, they always seemed to think that, computers and technology, was going to be the next big thing. Talking about how I decided to do a degree, me, like most people at the time, sort of wanted to follow that straight path, go to university, go do your GCSEs, do your A levels, and immediately go into university and then look for a job outside of university. I remember, not sort of researching online because there was no sort of online research at the time, but speaking to people who decided to take a gap year and thinking about, what I could do in a gap year after my A levels. And I remember speaking to my dad and saying to him, look, I want to take a gap year. And, at the time he was, super negative and like, no, you have to go immediately to university. And I was like, no, I will. I just want a year to sort of do stuff and to sort of, not necessarily find myself. And I think there's certain people who take that gap year to go traveling and, to sort of explore the market and, see what they want to do at university. I think I always knew what I wanted to do. And, thanks to my dad for helping me, because he, helped me to introduce me to a couple of people who helped me find my, first job in my gap year. So I got a job at a company called Capgemini, and at the time they were Capgemini Ernst & Young. It was a merge of the two companies, and I got a job not necessarily in IT, but in technical. We were doing credit card machine polling, where you take the credit card machines and you'd be able to download the data from them to get into the bank portals. I was working for Barclays Bank at the time. And I remember, I left the house, I moved up to Birmingham, which is about an hour away. And I was still in that, where I'd go there during the week and I would stay in Birmingham during the week, but I would always make sure I took the train back every Friday evening and go back to my parents for the weekend so my washing could get done and ironed. Because I was, you're still at that, young age of being 18 and that, and not sort of, sort of maybe ready to sort of leave the house completely. I worked there for a few months, did both the commute as well as did the live in there, and then got another job with HSBC, again in their IT support as well, and worked there for a few months. And I think that was a real big turning point in my career, because what it gave me is that I knew what IT was like from studying, right? I'd studied IT, I'd learned about IT, but what I hadn't learned is how to behave in a work atmosphere, what it's like to actually work, for a living. I'd always had part-time jobs. So I'd been a shoe salesman, I was a warehouse assistant in a carpet shop. So I knew what it was like to work, but I didn't know what it was like to sort of, work that 9 to 5 every day, get there in the morning, have a set list of tasks to do on a computer and then sit down and get that done. So I think that for me was a real eye opener. It really helped me to understand how business and work operated. And what it also helped me, which I think, a lot of people miss, is because I didn't have any experience and I got, introduced at a very junior role. Instead of leaving university and having to do that initial job, I'd done that initial job. So when I was, when I finished university and I'd been introduced to prospective companies, they already knew I had a year's worth of experience. So it wasn't like I was a brand new person straight coming out of university with no work experience. The guys were able to understand that, he's not just going to be a person coming straight out of university where we have to sort of just train him on how to operate in the workplace. I'd already had that year's experience. So it allowed me to get into a better job, I think, than probably a lot of my colleagues and my peers, were able to. I worked for, a few months in a doctor's surgery. I worked for a few months at the Royal Bank of Scotland, on their IT call center, before getting a proper job for the next couple of years in a opticians, actually, doing IT support for them and being a second level 2 IT support engineer, which, after 2 years worth of experience is a really good thing for me. I mean, being able to be that sort of level 2 engineer, supporting about 130 sites across the UK. There were only 3 of us at the time. There was a senior and, 2 normal staff, and one of them was myself. And I think, having that gap year, really led me to do that. Talking about my degree, and again, my degree was really interesting as well, because I didn't opt for a 3-year degree. I opted for a 4-year degree, where I would study for the first 2 years, and the university would help you place you for the 3rd year. So you get placed for the 3rd year in a company, and then go on and do your final year. And again, I managed to get placed at a really good company, GlaxoSmithKline. I managed to work with them for a year as well, doing level 2 IT support for them. And again, that was brilliant because, I had, a big company like GSK on my CV. I was able to, again, get a lot of experience in working in the workplace and things where, you don't realize the impact, something so simple as having to commute for 2 hours every day each way. And I mean, that's part of work at the end of the day. Commuting is part of your job. Having to, being able to budget on a salary, having to be able to, manage around personal things like, managing around Friday prayers, for example, where things are not necessarily, you're going to learn at university, but they're really important things to learn as you start your job. Even things like interacting with people, how you interact with people at the same level with you, how you interact with people more senior to you. We were supporting, presidents and vice presidents of, these huge multinational companies. And it really gave me the insight and the ability to interact with these people on a personal level. So that's sort of my brief story about how I started and how I sort of did my degree and the decisions around that.
Absolutely incredible that you took a gap year and that your parents were okay with it, because you nailed it when you said at first, my dad was no, it was like a no, that's not going to happen. But it seemed to me in how you retold that story that you clearly knew IT was the thing for you, and you took on roles that gave you that time to experience it, maybe on a conscious or an unconscious level. Would you say that you did that because you wanted to see and experience, will this really be the thing for me? Or was it just unconsciously happening for you at that time?
No. I think I actively pursued IT roles because I wanted to see what it was going to be like into the workforce. I really wanted to see, if this was something I would enjoy doing. A lot of it was unconscious, obviously. A lot of it was that I was going into IT, but sort of later on in my career, I've sort of ascribed to that, the ikigai analogy, where you've got the four buckets. Do I enjoy it? Am I good at it? Does it pay me? And is it helping humanity? Now, helping humanity, probably was at the last bucket list for me at the time. It was, did I enjoy it? Was I good at it? And am I getting paid for it? I think those were the three ones. But sort of going further in my career, I realized the importance of the last one, because if you're not doing something to help humanity and help society, right? Are you really fulfilled in your life? My current role is head of IT for Asta Pharmacy. And I resonate with it because everything we do helps patients, and we're helping people who are sick. Even though I'm just working on systems to prescribe medicine and get the insurance approvals, that's a huge thing for patients at the end of the day. Because without me being there, and without my systems being there, patients would be unable to get the medication they need in order to feel better, right? And to me, that's a really rewarding experience, because as the systems I develop, a lot of them are developed to help the patient journey. A lot of them are done to help the guys in the pharmacy serve the patients better. So to me, that's really bringing in that last part of the pie for me, that I'm doing something where I feel that I can really help humanity.
I appreciate you saying that part of because I think that's where fulfillment really kicks in when we think about a career. When I work with young people, often they're just thinking, Ms.V, I need to choose the right degree and I want to make a lot of money. And my parents have given me these options, and computer science is one of those options. I think I want to do that. But hearing you say, actually, maybe when I was younger, it was, am I good at it? Do I love it? Can I see myself doing it? But now that I look back, it's about, am I giving back to society? Am I giving back to the world? Very, very emotionally astute, but also very, I would say, very woke, right? In terms of, wow, what I do is not just a job, it actually helps or hinders other people. So I want to go backwards again. Let's talk about your industry. And I think the challenge that I've come across, and I'm guilty of it as well, is when we think IT, we think IT. But when you look into it, and I'm sure you'll be able to tell us more about that, it's not IT. There's so many components to the different occupations that exist, which brings me to my next question. When I help students and they're focused so heavily and deeply on getting the right degree, not only does it blow my mind that we're still thinking a degree is a career, which it's not, but that's a different episode. I look at these different degrees and ask myself, particularly in the IT industry and in computer science, is there one degree for life, or are there more ways that young people need to be looking at post-secondary education in this industry?
Yeah, so I think you nailed it on the head. IT is huge. And I mean, the amount of different verticals that exist now within IT are massive. And then just taking a little bit of a step back, I think when you're talking about degrees as well, I think it's important to realize that IT historically has always been this little guy in a corner programming or fixing a computer. That's not IT today. IT today is a real business partner, right? And you have to understand and be able to understand everything around the business in order to make sense of your IT. So even down to a programmer, if a programmer doesn't understand, let's just take a simple example of a programmer developing a warehouse application system, right, for picking products, something very basic. If the warehouse person doesn't understand the receiving process in a pharmacy, so if he doesn't understand how the goods have to come in and how they need to be received, if they don't understand logistics and supply chain as a business, if they don't understand finance, and how, picking and managing different products have an impact on finance, if they don't understand the business side of it, it becomes very difficult for them to develop the schematics to develop that application. And I think one of the biggest things that I've learned over the last, few years as well is that understanding business is equally as important to understanding IT, specifically for IT, because I need to know, and especially my role, obviously I've come up quite a bit, and my role is to oversee all of IT across the retail company. If I don't understand how finance works and procurement works and supply chain and HR and the operations team and our insurance, RCM teams, if I don't understand how all they work individually, if I don't understand how it all fits together, I cannot effectively build systems and support the teams in their journeys, because what it means is that I don't have the right knowledge in order to cater for their needs. And I think, we are now a service industry where we are offering our services to help businesses become better. And I think that's why business is such an important task. So when I studied, I didn't just study computer science, I studied information systems. And information systems is sort of a hybrid between business and IT. So you're learning IT, but you're also learning the business elements behind it. And that could be across all business. It's manufacturing, or whether it's procurement, or whether it's, how an operational team runs. I think, being able to understand that and bring that all in together is massive. But then talking about the different components of IT, which you asked earlier, there's so many different components about IT nowadays. You obviously have the standard one, which is your programming, where you have your developers who sit down, code and program the different side. And that's one path to choose from. There's the standard IT implementation and IT support, where we support the business users and we implement different out-of-the-box systems, whether you're implementing Microsoft products or Oracle products or SAP or different robotic process automation tools. There's so many different softwares that you can automate. There's the whole infrastructure piece where you're learning about servers and networks and how to manage those and build those on cloud or on premise. And now, which is probably the biggest, the two biggest ones, which are huge at the moment, security and cybersecurity, which is absolutely massive in the IT space at the moment. Because everything's about security. We're hearing about hacks and, ransomware and everything that happens on a regular basis. And that's huge at the moment. So cybersecurity professionals are in hot demand. And then the second one is around data analytics. And we're seeing more and more IT data scientists and data analytics and BI developers and report analysts really working to take the data from IT systems and build systems, reports, and data around them to feed back to the business, so that the businesses can make the correct decisions as to how to proceed across their strategies.
So if you were 17 again, would you choose to do the same degree, or would you think differently?
I would choose to do the same degree, but I would definitely, and I specialize in networking, but I would definitely specialize in either security or data analytics. I think those are the two. I think networking has sort of become more and more automated as the years have gone on, and there's less of a demand for it. But data analytics and cybersecurity are the two hot topics at the moment.
Adam, when you look towards your future and you think about the world of work, what do you think you want to be doing on that next milestone?
So good question. So, being head of IT, I've, sort of reached not a plateau, but sort of, the highest sort of level you can achieve within an organization. But, I'm still in a relatively smaller organization. I'm still in an organization where, there's a lot bigger organizations out there from a multinational perspective across the world. So I think for me specifically, I'd sort of want to move forward and sort of grow myself within the IT space, but grow myself, into large organizations, which is probably the first way that I want to look at it. Probably the second way I'd want to look at it is that, I've got so much knowledge and so much insight into the way businesses operate. Half of me always wants to run my own company and to, offer IT services and solutions to other organizations. But at the same time, that's a scary one, isn't it? Leaving a full-time job and, having the confidence to start your own company is a big, scary, it's a big, scary thing. And I think, I don't know if I'm ready there yet, but I think I'm definitely working towards, potentially doing that, as the years sort of go on.
I can feel what you're talking about, but you know what? I think the exciting thing to hear from you is that you're still striving for those next milestones. And that is another point that I make with young people, letting them understand that that first choice is not their last choice. It's just, where does the party really begin when you join the world of work? Now, Adam, I can go on forever. I'm really conscious of your time. As we're walking away from this incredible episode and hearing about your insights and seeing how you decided to try different things, either by going from a company to a different company, taking a gap year when most of your friends probably went straight to university, having the confidence to take a path less traveled, and now looking back, really appreciating that you did. You said so many incredible things, but what top 3 tips would you offer a young person who's just beginning the journey and is really afraid of making the wrong choice?
So great question, Maria. And I think just before we do that, I want to just touch on one thing as well, which I forgot to mention earlier, was that even though I've started in IT, I got a role, and this relates to the top 3 things, but I got a role and a job opportunity to become a operations manager in South Africa, and managing a bunch of companies, very small companies. I mean, 10, 15 staff members. It was a gym, and it was an operational health center, and a property management company. And I did that for a year. And to me, that was the most unique, scary experience, because I'd never managed people. I'd never, sort of done stuff outside of IT. But I got offered the role, and I took it and I ran with it for a year, and I made lots of mistakes and ultimately left that job, right? But that was fine, because at the end of the day, I got such good experience from that in terms of managing people. And I think that's my first tip for young people, is that don't be afraid to be blindsided to only go into one thing, even after your degree. Have the foresight to sort of look and say, what other skills can I learn from this role, right? If you study IT, but your first job might be as a document controller, for example, right? At the very least, you're learning about the business. You're learning about a computer system at the end of the day, because the vast majority of stuff would be on a computer system, right? And think about what experience it would lead you into the next thing, which is probably my first tip for young people. My second tip for young people is that if you're not enjoying it, don't do it, right? If you don't enjoy what you do, just stop, because it's not going to get any easier for you, right? And, a career is a long, long, long journey, right? You're talking, most of your lifetime, you'll be in that same career. And if you don't enjoy it, even after 1 or 2 years of university, don't feel pressured to say, you know what, I don't enjoy this. I want to do something else, and change and do something different. Because if you don't enjoy it, now is the time to change. And probably my third tip, which leads on to my earlier point, is understand business, right? If you can, in a career in IT, if you can understand business and you can understand how businesses operate, right, that'll be the biggest benefit you have, because then you're seen not just as a IT person who takes instructions and fixes or implements systems. You're seen as a real business leader driving IT and technological change across the organization. And I'd like to think that's what I've become over my career. And I can't emphasize enough the importance of understanding how these businesses operate and how you can then play your part to fit in and implement systems to really drive business change.
Wow. Talk about ending this episode on a total high. Thank you so much, Adam, for being here with me and sharing all of your insights. Incredible top 3 tips. I think what I'm hearing without you actually saying it is just get to know yourself, because when you were saying, if you're not happy, leave it, it's really understanding, like you mentioned earlier, if you want to use the Ikigai model, in that understanding who you are and what you like. But Adam, amazing. Thank you so much for being with me. Adam Docrat is an IT professional with over 20 years of experience in the IT sector in the UK, South Africa, Qatar, and the UAE. So much to learn from, so little time to do it in. But Adam, it's been a real pleasure. I appreciate everything that you've shared with us. And any young person listening in or watching us on YouTube right now, I hope that you are walking away with some key insights. And the one thing that I'm going to come back to that I love that you mentioned, Adam, is it's not just a job, it's also about how you give back to the world in some way, shape, or form. Thank you for being here, and thank you everyone for listening. Have a great day.